The day ought to have concluded with mirth. One last drink. My partner Chris and I had a drowsy flight back to Portland, but instead, I stood still in my San Diego hotel room, looking at a number that sent shivers down my spine. $9,200. Gone. It's just gone. In order to settle the hotel bill, I had just launched my banking app. I looked for no other purpose than that. Raise my phone and say, "Chris?" My voice quivers. He swiftly pivoted back while he was preparing his travel bag. "I don't know. The one I use, my funds, I lost it." Bewildered, he inched closer until the screen appeared. Afterwards, his respiration ceased as well. "What on earth, Olivia? My account balance was above $10,000 3 days ago. Prior to my younger brother's wedding, I had made sure. As a rule, I verify. But right now, there were only $985 left. As soon as Chris put his brain into legal gear, he took out his phone and looked up the transaction history. What on earth? 3 significant transfers. Everything from yesterday night. I transferred $3,000 on a credit card in my older sister, Lacey Walker's name. Travis Walker, who is her husband, received $2,500. The sum of $3,700 to my mother, Margaret Morgan. Everything was green lit at around 11:43 p.m. I was getting ready for bed as I was in the shower. The words, "I didn't do this," hardly escaped my lips as I spoke them. "Someone gained unauthorized access to your account," Chris announced with a clammy jaw. "We should contact the bank this very second." My phone rang in the same moment he said it. It was my mother. I gazed upon it. Unearthly was the timing. Chris and I exchanged glances. Afterwards, I took up, "My darling Olivia." She spoke in an upbeat, informal tone. I wanted to express my gratitude one more for yesterday. To Zach, it was pure joy. "You were stunning." "Mom," I managed to say, my voice quivering with effort. "I thought you had taken funds out of my account." A halt followed. Later on, she chuckled. Oh my. It turned out to be less than we anticipated, you know." I was speechless. I tried to speak, but nothing came out of my lips. "Lacey mentioned that you had saved up a significant amount," Mom persisted. "Therefore, we decided to divide it up. I mean, for the nuptials. The reception tip was going to be charged to Travis's card, and I needed to chip in to assist pay it. Nothing major has happened. Not a major concern." My voice quivered. I placed the phone on speaker while Chris drew near. "That's theft," I whispered. "You kept Mom on the subject." "Oh, come on," my mom said in a stern tone. "We're related." "Seriously, Liv, you never stop behaving like your money is completely yours. Nevertheless, you do not have a partner at this time. Your income is commendable. Obviously, you need to pitch in." Then Chris interjected. "Chris, who is dating Olivia, is this guy. What you've done is against the law. I say this as an attorney. You went into her bank account and moved funds around without her knowledge or permission. It is illegal." "Oh, great," my mom said with a sudden change of tone. The attorney, "Would you mind staying out of my personal business?" The call was ended by her. I felt like I'd walked into a nightmare as I stood there gazing at the phone. Chris drew near to secure a grasp of my hand. I trembled. "We're heading to your folks' place," I whispered. I prefer to hear it straight from the source. He remained silent. No one spoke a word as we drove. My heart was thumping in my ears. As I sped into an alternate universe, I got the unsettling sensation that the people I cared about had transformed into faceless strangers in possession of access codes. My childhood house was finally into sight 30 minutes later. It took Chris no time at all to knock. I strode briskly to the front porch where I jingled the bell. Opened the door was Nicholas, my dad. His words were tinged with astonishment when he spoke the name Olivia. "I thought you two departed earlier today," she said. I went straight into the living room, ignoring him completely. Travis found Lacey sitting on the couch with him. Contrasting with them, my mom sat and drank tea as if it were any other Saturday afternoon. Upon noticing me, they all ceased speaking. My gaze was fixed on Lacey. "What gave you access to my account?" Shrugging, she continued. "Your password remains unchanged at all times. It seems like you forgot to lock your phone in the restroom. It was easy." Before her I gazed, "And you didn't consider the possibility that I should have given my approval prior to your taking almost $10,000. With his arms folded, Travis relaxed on the couch. "Let yourself relax. That was crucial. You reside in a charming apartment on your own. You go on trips. You are childless. We need to take care of business." The clenching of my fists was palpable. It wasn't only about the money, it was a basic human right. I responded, "Don't try to justify this," with my jaw clenched. "What you did was theft." As if swatting a fly, Mom waved a hand. "Listen, Olivia, keep this from becoming a controversy. Welcome to our family. Borrowing is what we do. Lending is what we do. It is inevitable." Chris took the lead. It was not a loan. It was getting into someone's personal account. That, too, is illegal. At last, my dad spoke, his head still buried in the newspaper. "Do not involve the law in problems pertaining to your family, young guy." My heart shattered. All was silent, but there were major cracks. I was never a daughter. Yes, in this very room. Oh, I was an automated teller machine. Chris muttered, "Let's go," as he softly touched my back. Lacey yelled from behind me as I turned to go, "Stop being an actor. Working hard, you'll be able to recoup that expense quickly. Our need for it outweighed yours." I pivoted away. To be honest, she thought that. Absolutely no shame whatsoever. "I am not interested in interacting with any of you," I declared. "Please never again contact me." I finally lost it once we were back in the car. I sobbed into the driving wheel. In quiet, Chris massaged my back. "What they did, it's not just wrong," he whispered to Olivia. "That's illegal." "No," I said, since I was already aware, "but understanding and trusting. There is a difference between the two." We departed from the residence without exchanging any further words. I turned my back on them. Just couldn't. Chris sped away. As if I weren't actually in San Diego, I gazed out the window and watched the city streets whiz by. I couldn't stop thinking about the same dark center. It was never their place to inform me. They felt no remorse. They made no effort to conceal it. I had only served as an asset. They began to portray me as the antagonist the moment I learned the truth. Upon our return to the motel, I took a seat on the bed while drawing my knees up to my chest. Chris walked around the room. His anger was subtle but palpable. A savage edge ran through his fury, cold, controlled. "You need to report this," he eventually remarked to Liv, to whom I asked unconcerned. "That financial institution, law enforcement officials. Whatever it is, I can deliver it. False advertising. Theft has occurred. The fact that it's your family is irrelevant." "However, here's the catch," I said. "They are my relatives." Chris had my full confidence. I knew it with all my being. The pain, nevertheless, would not go away. This isn't how it was meant to go, the pain that stated. You were meant to have their love. I recalled the little details, like Lacey's phone calls pleading for a little help when her rent was about to go up. Mom casually brought up the idea of borrowing a few $100s to cover the cost of the dentist. My father never once objected when I volunteered to cover the cost of Christmas food. In fact, he never ever said anything to the contrary. I felt I was being rather kind. Then I realized I was actually making a difference. I was only a scapegoat, it turns out. Chris got up bright and early the next day to make some calls. He had already sat down at the desk, laptop in hand, with a stack of notes by the time I had washed and dressed. He mentioned that he had a conversation with a coworker. Financial criminality is Sonia Chen's area of expertise. Similar matters have been handled by her before. Only in this way, I exclaimed in shock. The frequency with which it occurs would surprise you, particularly to women like you, the breadwinner, the sole breadwinner, the responsible one. Your families view you as a treasure trove of opportunities. Perched next to him, I took a seat. Documentation, she says, is paramount, Chris went on to remark. We have to collect everything, transfer history messages, emails, bank records. We proceeded in that manner. I searched my internet banking account for the following 4 hours. As time goes on, every entry evoked a recollection. The gift or loan kept bringing me back to the same unsettling reality. My total payments to them exceeded $15,000 in the past 18 months. $600 for the iPad that Harry has. $100 to cover Margaret's tuition at the dance studio. $800 to put toward their mortgage for the one time. On each occasion, shame persisted. Pressure. If your love for your niece was genuine, consider your sister's offspring. We really need it, and you don't. On the other side of me was Chris. Stay calm, without pause. Even he was taken aback, as far as I could tell. This wasn't helpful, I remarked. Manipulation was involved here. There was no balance. That's exploitation, Chris remarked. It wasn't the first time they asked for $200. It was the first time they didn't. He had a point. Not even informing me was in their original intention. I would have been completely unaware if I hadn't used my banking app. That epiphany, though, that was the turning point. Sonia agreed to meet with us that evening after Chris contacted her again later that afternoon. Her handshake was kind, yet forceful as she welcomed us. Bob cut with a short, pointy side. Rapid fire. The type of woman who appeared to pay close attention to every last detail. According to her, Olivia, this represents a typical pattern of financial abuse inside families. No one is immune to it simply because they are your relatives. It really exacerbates the problem. I confessed. I feel that guilty to clarify, like I'm causing a rift in my family. Sonia looked at me steadily. Would you advise your lover to simply move on if he were the victim of a workplace robbery? No. What if his own mother turned out to be the thief? I was hesitant. Who they are is irrelevant, she stated. An offense is an offense. It is within your rights to establish limits. Slowly I nodded. The anguish remained unchanged despite her remarks. They did, however, clarify the fact. I slept poorly that night. As I slept off in bed, I stared at the ceiling and listened to Chris's breaths and the hum of the air conditioner. No, I wasn't only mourning the loss of funds. The delusion was killing me, envisioning one's family as a shield against harm. Unconditional love was that. Blood cannot betray. We went to the branch of my bank in my area the following day to formally report the fraudulent transfers. Agent from the fraud section listened, probed, and reported. The most difficult part was next. This is Zach, my younger brother. He had recently tied the knot. His honeymoon gear was likely in his suitcase at the time. Yet I required clarification. Plus, I had to know whether he was involved as well. On the third ring, he managed to take up. "Oliva, where are you?" He seemed taken aback, he remarked. Are you still on the plane? I assumed you were. I needed to speak to you, Zach, I told him. He seemed startled by my tone. Yeah, what's the matter? Were you aware of the funds? Did you steal $200 out of my account? A lengthy pause followed. Who is Zach? I was unaware of the precise amount, he whispered. Yet I sensed they had a plot in the works. During supper, Lacey and Mom were discussing it in hushed tones. Please do not implicate me, I implored them. I reasoned that it wouldn't be my concern if I refrained from becoming involved. My eyes were shut. Sure thing. Obviously, he was aware. My apologies, Olivia. I had doubts that they would actually pull it off. All I wanted was for the wedding to be perfect. I drew a deep breath. My tone was composed yet assertive. Their theft was from me, and I intend to pursue legal action. You were unable to stop it, but there is still time to make a good choice. You better be honest with me if this ends up in court. He took a while to respond. His voice was trembling and low when he did it at last. All right then. After ending the call, I just gazed at the TV. Chris played with my hand. Is it okay with you? As if I've just destroyed the one remaining bridge, I said. I believe it was necessary for it to burn. The quiet had changed when we returned to our Portland apartment. There was no tranquility. The silence had a pulsating quality to it. It seemed as if the whole fabric of reality had crumbled. I was in the kitchen, clutching a cup of tea that I had completely neglected to consume. There was a noticeable lack of movement in my hands. My body is cumbersome. Chris perused papers while seated at the table. Excuse me, but this is all the information you retrieved from your bank. He continued, slipping a PDF in my direction. The sequence according to time, the previous 3 years. I was surprised by how extensive the list was. Transfers on pages and pages. Some of them have names on them. Some include imprecise descriptors, such as gift, school fund, or emergency. Observable trends emerged. A fresh request arrives every half year. Yet another justification. Just a need. Time and again, I had responded affirmatively, although a little hesitantly. Because of that, I used to believe I was generous. I was beginning to wonder whether it didn't only make me easy. Another folder was slid across the table by Chris. This one had Sonia's notes, which organized our legal choices according to the offense. Financial abuse, illegal access, and digital fraud. Chris leaned closer and said, Olivia, this is genuine. This isn't only an unfortunate recollection or an error. Their actions constitute a crime. With a nod, I concurred, rather slowly, mechanically. Looking up at him, I continued, Would you contact the authorities if an unknown someone took $200 from your bank account? An eyebrow was arched by him, without a doubt. What if that mysterious individual turned out to be your mother? I inquired. He was unsure, once more nodded. What transpired would remain unchanged. Once again, I lowered my gaze to the list. A $1,600 wedding cake, orthodontic fees, house payments, and my name are all intertwined with these sums of money. It was all on me. Despite this, they pretended it wasn't sufficient. Of all the payments, the one for Travis's smartwatch $750 hit me the hardest. At the wedding, I saw that he was wearing it. It seemed familiar to me. It was me who footed the bill, I declared aloud. Chris glanced upward. The wristwatch that Travis wore. I purchased it. Without being aware of it. There was no mirth in my laughter. I bet they're still saying to each other that I'm selfish and wearing the stuff I bought them. Chris rose from his seat and crouched down next to my chair. Listen up, he firmly stated. That's not selfish of you. Feel the weight of exploitation. Countless times, They are punishing you for setting boundaries now that you have finally said no. I choked. They are my family, though. A nod came from him, and that's the main reason why it's more painful. However, consider this, who is responsible for looking out for your safety. Anyone can take from you or lie to you. No way, I said, since I was already aware. Sonia checked in that evening by phone call. Calmly and professionally, yet kindly, she spoke. I've written the initial grievance, she announced. A preliminary investigation will be carried out by the Financial Crimes Division after we submit. Involved parties will be interviewed, suspect accounts will be frozen, and subpoenas may be issued. A knot formed in my throat. Are they going to face charges? In the end, it's subjective. Probation and reparation may follow a first offense. If the offender cooperates, however, the process must commence. My heart was racing. Even though she was blind, I nodded anyway. Chris took a seat next to me, his fingers intertwined with mine. What I really meant was that I would want to volunteer for it. I am eager to move ahead. Olivia, you are doing the right thing, Sonia reassured with a warm smile after a little pause. Despite how it feels, I know it isn't. But believe me when I say this is how you reclaim your life. The official complaint was submitted the next morning. My phone went boom on that exact day. Calls that were not returned. Multiple texts, each one of my relatives. Dear Lacey, what on earth are you doing? Olivia. There was talk about the possibility of account freezing. I am unable to cover Harry's tuition. Are you seriously pursuing this for financial gain? Dear Mom. So what's your plan? The home was raided by the authorities. Who knows what the neighbors could say? Your actions are dishonoring this family. Take the report down immediately. Your dad is worried he may pass out since his chest is so tight. Dad, speak nothing. A snapshot. Open drawers and a rummaged living room. It reads, "Are you happy now?" in handwriting. Quivering, I fixed my gaze on the television. Chris kept a tight eye on me. So what's your plan? I drew a deep breath. I tapped out some words. Address everyone. It's entirely on you. I will not return to the person who allowed herself to be used. I sent it. After that, I silenced my phone. My apartment door was pounded that afternoon. I opened it, and there stood Lacey. Makeup had smeared into her crimson eyes. Her expression betrayed her lack of sleep. Nearly in a whisper, she whispered Olivia's name. What gives? Why are you acting in this way? I took a moment to respond. I responded calmly. I'll call Chris if you want to talk. We may have the discussion with him physically there. With an abrupt, "Oh, I knew it. She lost her temper. He's the one. Presently, he has authority over you. Your family used to be important to you." I still do, I said, my voice quivering. However, just because I care about you, it doesn't imply I should tolerate being taken advantage of. Forward she moved. We requested assistance. We did not steal. More than you, we needed it. Nicholas might be fired from his work now. My mom is chaotic. You've ruined it everything. Before her, I gazed. Harry and Margaret, have I considered them? I raised my voice and said it again. Have you crossed my mind? Other people have always been a part of my thoughts. But seriously, when you stole my money, did anybody here consider me at all? When were you on my phone? In instances where you were dishonest. She looked pallid. You've transformed, she murmured. I kept my composure. Indeed, I have evolved. This is because I am sick of being taken advantage of. Without saying a word, she departed. Afterwards, I remained silently positioned by the window. Behind me, Chris climbed up and embraced me. Are you in good form? Subtly, he inquired. I am unsure. I admitted truthfully. However, I am beginning to wonder if I will actually be. I received a call 3 days subsequent to submitting the complaint. I didn't know the number, but I recognized the voice the moment it spoke. "Oh, Olivia." A low voice belonged to my father. "I am exhausted." "Hey, what you up to?" he inquired, she said. A delicate and incisive inquiry. Housewhy lingered in the atmosphere. The house was searched by the police. He went on further. "My laptop was stolen. Your mom is going into a frenzy. She sobs uncontrollably. Your sister, Nicholas's employment was terminated. Our mortgage account might be frozen at this very moment according to the bank. Is that your intention?" I was hesitant to talk at first. Subsequently, I stated, "This is the result of your actions. Certainly not I." Nobody spoke. Next, take a long breath out. "Our daughter, you are no longer ours." His speech was emotionless, as if a door were to shut. "You turned your back on this family, and you won't be invited back." The connection dropped. With the phone still in my hand, I stood in the kitchen, my gaze fixed on the wall. In strolled Chris. He laid eyes on me, but he didn't inquire. All he did was scoop me up into his arms. Unexpectedly, I remained composed. A scream eluded me. However, a part of me ruptured and then reformed simultaneously. Sonia called later that night. She was in the know. Amelia and Travis Walker have been formally charged with unlawful access and money theft, she said to Olivia. The prosecution has not yet found enough evidence to press criminal charges against your parents. However, they are still being investigated for conspiracy. Nodding, I attempted to take it all in. Next week there will be a preliminary hearing, she repeated. A temporary restraining order has also been obtained by us. With any luck, the court will approve. My expression of gratitude was toward her. My voice hardly made a sound. In front of me, Chris set a steaming cup. He just muttered, "Tea, Tea. Ouch. Hold still." With the cup in my hands, I gazed down into the steaming liquid below. "They rejected me," I said. Chris remained unfazed. "You didn't ruin the family," he said. "They did it the second they decided to turn traitor toward you." He had a point. Still, the pain was excruciating. On my way to work the following morning, I noticed a person resting against a brick wall as I stepped out of my building. Who was it, Lacey? Exhaustion betrayed her. She appeared nearly wild with bulging eyes. "So what's your desire?" I remained at a safe distance and inquired. "You really must resolve this," she admonished, her jaw tightly clamped. The cops showed up once more. They interrogated Travis as the children watched. We had our account frozen. Even food is out of our price range. It was not my problem. I said, "Mom." Longer. She advanced toward him. "Do you have any idea how this is affecting Mom?" "What about Dad? How about Zach? You're damaging the family dynamic. You did that, I told you, as you embezzled my money. Your mocking laughter and assurance that I will make it back in no time." Now Lacey was gasping for air. "I was surprised you would go to such extreme lengths." She blurted out sharply, "I don't recognize you. You've changed." "You're right," I said rationally, because my former self would have preferred to remain silent. However, this is no longer the case. Without saying a word, she marched off. Zach returned to our doorstep later that evening. His appearance has changed, pale, worn, but truthfully, saying I heard Tintintimu Damo. Zasadai as kanatinud SMS was umaisu. With a nod, I concurred. "Admit him." Seated, he remarked, "I didn't want to believe it would come to this." but I can't turn a blind eye to their actions. I must admit, I was complicit in allowing it to occur. "Zach," I began. He abruptly ended our conversation with a rejection. "Please don't shield me. I had a feeling they were plotting a theft. Its magnitude caught me off guard. This is what I was expecting." But I remained silent since I knew they were plotting. He used both hands to massage his face. It was terrifying, afraid to sabotage the nuptials, afraid of losing them. Regardless, you failed to retain them, and you refused to back down. I chose not to answer. His eyes welled up as he met mine. "I would love to be of service. My testimony will be presented at any hearing that may be scheduled. I will be forthright with them." A knot formed in my throat. "Is that so?" I inquired. "As a result of our conversation, they already hate me," he declared. "Do what's right, I suppose." A gentle touch from Chris landed on Zach's shoulder. A plain "thank you" was all he could muster. I wore a frock that had been languishing in my closet for years when I entered the courtroom on the day of the preliminary hearing. The way I appeared was irrelevant. However, I felt more grounded after dressed with purpose. Lacey and Travis, who were seated rigidly next to their lawyer, were across the room. With her head held high, my mother stood behind them. My dad failed to appear. 10 minutes after that, Zach showed up. He crossed to the opposite side after giving me a nod. On my own. Zach stood up as the court called for witnesses who were willing to testify. "I am," he declared. Then he started talking. It is obvious, rather slowly, his knowledge was shared with them, the talks that he happened to overhear. What Lacey and our mother said, the casualness with which they handled it. For the first time ever, Zach resembled his elder brother, just like a guardian. There was complete quiet in the courtroom as he concluded. Bank statements, login logs, communication screenshots, and the signed complaint from my bank's fraud section were among the pieces of evidence that Sonia presented before the judge. "A temporary restraining order has been granted," the court announced. "Travis Walker and Amelia Walker have been officially charged. There will be a trial date scheduled in 60 days. I felt my heart racing. I could feel someone's gaze on me as we left the courthouse. I pivoted away, very delicate. Her face had evolved beyond mere anger. Afraid, was it? It was apparent to her. At last it clicked for her. A warning shot was not fired. Justice was served. Later that night, Chris treated me to supper at a quaint spot outside of town. Adorned with cozy lights, we were encircled by the dulcet tones of jazz while we dined. His folks were also present. To see us, they had driven all the way from Eugene. Estella, who is his mother, clung to my arm for a bit longer than I had anticipated. "You're officially a member of our family," she soothed. Wept into my eyes were my sobs. "Taking care of each other is what family means," she concluded. Desiring nothing from one another. Speechless, I could only nod. I was able to get a good night's sleep without gasping for air for the first time in weeks that night. Still I was mourning, still recovering. No, I wasn't the only one. Plus, I felt no shame, at least not at the moment. Some days later, as I was getting out of my office, I noticed that someone was waiting for me outside. There was Zach. The man appeared sleep-deprived with his hands in his pockets, yet his shoulders were set as if he had finally made up his mind. "The trial date has reportedly been decided," he informed. With a nod, I concurred. "Olivia, I only wanted to express my gratitude one more, rather than ignoring me, for allowing me the opportunity to make the correct choice." A low-key, "You did more than that," was my muted response. "In the end, you were the one to stand up. Everything hinges on it." He retreated after offering me a subtle smile. "No matter what, I will be here." Upon his departure, I made my way home along the few blocks and checked the mailbox in the foyer of our building. An envelope with strange handwriting stood out among the stacks of bills and trash mail. Enclosed was a missive. To Olivia, my dear friend, I doubt you recall our last conversation. Travis's cousin, I am Marty Daniels. Some years ago, we crossed paths at 2 separate family reunions. What you did was heard by me. Thank you. That's all I want to say. It's been my experience as well. My parents opened accounts using my credit. Under my identity, my brother took out debts. They accused me of being self-centered when I attempted to intervene. They said I lacked compassion. However, permission was something I hadn't realized I'd lost until I heard your tale. Get up from your seat. In order to decline, just enough. Your actions, you showed great courage there. Love was there. You demonstrated that being self-protective does not imply being unkind. Strength is yours to own. You have my gratitude. Yes, indeed. That was Marty. As I read it aloud in the elevator, my vision became hazy from crying word after word. It had become about more than just me. What occurred and what they did were not isolated incidents. The message that family means sacrifice led many to silently accept and even embrace the trend. Yet respect-free love. No, that is not related. There you have it. Emotional blackmail masquerading as a Sunday supper. A pleasant surprise came from Chris 2 weeks before. To the trial, I had no idea this lakeside place existed until he took us there, far from the city. The lake glistened in the gentle amber light as the golden hour began and the warm air caressed my face. A little table with candles and 2 dishes was put up beside a wooden pier, and we strolled up to see it. Just what is this? Despite the butterflies in my stomach, I asked with a smile. Supper, Chris said as he squeezed my hand. In honor of you. Neither of us moved. We dined. Our laughter filled the air. Chris rose to his feet as the sky shifted from a golden hue to a lavender one. After that, he knelt down. My heart froze. During the previous few months, he had observed you enduring adversity. I've witnessed you crumble, pick yourself up, and then rise even stronger. Standing up for what's right was more important to you than standing up for yourself. From his pocket, he withdrew a little velvet box, which he then opened. Within simple, graceful gleaming, Olivia Morgan, would you intend to wed me? My eyes welled up with tears. Distressed not. After receiving relief, upon discharge, as a result of believing. Yes, I said, my voice quivering. In a word, yes. When he stood up and kissed me, everything seemed lighter. Sonia had news for us when we got home. The trial date has been set. Next week, Amelia and Travis will make an appearance. The prosecution is likely to seek complete reparation and at the very least a suspended sentence. Their criminal history makes jail time seem implausible, yet responsibility remains. With a nod, I concurred. One more note arrived in my inbox that evening, given to me by my dad. Hello, Anna. This family has been devastated by your actions. Your mom has trouble sleeping. The tension has made your sister ill. Lawyers and complete strangers are handling our case. I am embarrassed of you. I gazed upon the message, removed it afterwards. Shame could no longer exist in my life. The truth alone. On the morning of my trial, I wore a navy blue suit. No-brainer, sharp. We were welcomed at the courthouse by Zach. At ease and prepared, Sonia stood at our side. Travis and Amelia waited silently inside while their lawyer said something to them. They seemed diminutive. Everyone rose to their feet as the judge walked in. Someone read the case out loud. The accusations: unapproved entry to computer systems, theft of funds, personal harm. We offered the proof: a fraud report from the bank, record of logins, timestamps are changed. The official submission of Zach's testimony made under oath. I am the one making the remark, Amelia whispered when asked how they pled. They said guilty. Travis trailed behind. Due to financial hardship, having 2 children, and a lack of a criminal record, their counsel asked for mercy. The judge gave each document his entire attention. Next, he said, the defendants are sentenced to 3 years probation for the crimes of unauthorized access and financial theft. There was a slouch in Amelia's chair. Travis had his eyes shut. Aside from paying $5,000 in damages for emotional anguish, they are also ordered to refund $9,200 to the victim, the court stated. Suddenly, something caught me off guard. The victim is prohibited from having any contact with the defendants, either directly or indirectly, for a period of 5 years, the court said. I sighed. It had been months since my lungs had been completely filled. As we left the courtroom, we were met with the dappled light of dawn. The breeze is cool. Make it spotless. I was embraced by Chris. Are you in good form? With a nod, I concurred. I'm doing okay now. A follow-up letter was sent to me by Sonia later that week. The court had already authorized the liquidation of Amelia and Travis's assets in order to settle the debt. Their money was no longer accessible. As a result of Nicholas's conviction, his employer had officially fired him. It may be their home next. There was a split second when I felt a pull on my chest. Nothing to do with guilt, perhaps grief, with regard to the potential that existed. After then, Chris's remarks resurfaced. Their deeds have led to this. Do not take offense. He had a point. I spoke the following that night as we sipped wine on our balcony and listened to the city below. It wasn't simply the money I reclaimed. It was my identity as well. Gesturing, Chris grinned. It will be protected from theft forever. The trial was 60 days ago. Repayment was due and due and due. Next, the orders for enforcement went into effect. It was Sonia who originally contacted us. There has been a start to collections, she announced. The accounts of both Amelia and Travis have been blocked. Vehicles, gadgets, and personal property are among the assets that are being confiscated. Compensation for the victim who is, you will be insured by the court. Chris sat down next to me and began to browse through his email. Seems like Nicholas has been fired, he chimed in. Domestic policy. Anyone having a conviction for a financial crime cannot be employed by them. Slowly I nodded. And the home, we are still reviewing it, Sonia responded. However, foreclosure is highly probable due to their outstanding mortgage balance and frozen accounts. With my eyes closed, I reclined on the couch. No, I didn't feel victorious. However, I also did not feel broken. Knowing that there would be repercussions brought a certain amount of calm. Even though there was no delight in their suffering, that fairness wasn't only a concept. I could feel it. Enforcing it is possible. On that particular Saturday, we sought for a peaceful brunch location close to Forest Park. A fresh favorite, typical with lots of windows and tables made of honey-colored wood. My phone beeped as I took a drink of my coffee. It had been some time since I'd seen Marty Daniels' name. She had emailed me. Once again, I am grateful. Good day, Olivia. I wanted to let you know that I am now free of my brother because of you. Last month, I ceased transferring funds to him. For the first time, the news that he had declared me dead to him did not break me. I wanted you to know that your tale gave me strength, even though I know you're still struggling with the aftermath from your own situation. You were battling for more than just yourself. Like me, you were battling for others. You have my gratitude. Hello, Marty. My heart hurt in a good way, and I just gazed at the television. I wasn't only defending myself. It had an effect. This meant something. Later that night, Chris and I sat on the living room floor, going through old photos, the kind I'd had in boxes for years. Those I hadn't looked at in ever. I proudly displayed a college photo of Lacey and me. It was funny. Her shoulders slumped. I cover my lips with my hand, merely stating, I used to think that moment was pure, was my intended tone. Chris glanced over at it as he bent over. It was likely, he explained, prior to all else. We could totally go back, I muttered. A soft, but we can't, came from him. And to be honest, perhaps that's all right. He retrieved a little picture book from his own possession. Below photos of the two of us, going on a trek, preparing meals, having a good time in dim light. A novel family unit. It is ours. Our visit to Chris's parents in Eugene came a few weeks thereafter. Upon my arrival, Estella warmly greeted me at the door. I created the dish you adore. She grinned. Chicken with lemon. Indeed, there is plenty food for subsequent meals. Our laughter filled the air. Laughter that doesn't pry into your pocket. One that mends. We looked at the fireflies flitting under the trees as we strolled through their lawn after supper. Pulling me away, Chris grabbed my hand. I have a question for you, he stated, maintaining eye contact in his speech. I crouched down. You know what, we're actually making plans for the wedding, he explained. But first, I'd like to try something new. A folded sheet of paper was extracted from his pocket by him. A realty listing was a humble cottage, coastal area. A mansion is out of our price range. Still, we have the budget for this. In a peaceful area, it is ours, where fresh beginnings can begin. My eyes welled up with tears. Yes, I said softly. We can start from square one and create something. At a later hour that evening, we reclined on the porch swing, ensconced in a blanket and holding wine glasses. When I felt safe, it had been years. It wasn't because I was spared physical harm. However, I had opted to safeguard myself. Reason being, I had made a line, and they would not budge. Loving individuals would never force you to sacrifice your self-respect for their convenience. A family that I believed existed has vanished. I did, however, acquire a life, and that is absolutely sufficient.